Well, good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So I am the lucky person, the fortunate person that gets to play with plants in my work job and then when I'm at home. And so, as Jason said, I'm actually just like the broker territory rep for Kansas, parts of Missouri, parts of Nebraska. I get to work with greenhouse growers as they decide what to grow, and that's a fun job. It's quite interesting. We always have this discussion because it's a finite amount of space in the greenhouse, and there's usually 300-400 new varieties every year. So it's like, okay, what do we do? What do we take out? What do we add in? And so it's always a challenge, I think, just to understand what's trending up and what's trending down. Just like cars and the shape of cars and all that, plants come and go as well. And so one of the things that's kind of fun for me when I was walking around is not only looking at what's new, but also because I'm immersed in it, and I know perennials and annuals pretty well. I'm not really good at shrubs and trees. That's probably Jason's department. But you kind of also look for little hidden gems that maybe somebody hadn't thought about, hadn't ever tried before. And so that's kind of what I did tonight, and that's really kind of what we'll start with, and we'll just work through it as we go. Some things are new, some things are been out a few years, some things have been out more than a few years, but bear with me and I think you'll enjoy what we're about to talk about. In my right hand is dragonwing. Dragonwing begonia has been around for a long, long time. Actually, this plant was on the shelf. They had bred this plant and it was on the shelf for 25 years. So they didn't know what to do with it. Because begonias were supposed to be little 8-inch plants that sit on a border and that's all they're supposed to do. Finally, someone said, well, let's just throw it out in the marketplace and see what happens. And it spawned an entire new category of begonias that we call knee-high begonias. So this is kind of the original that started all of that in 2024, so last year. So there's the red and there's the pink, and we call it red, and it's not really red, it's really orange, but we call it red. So last year they were able to take both of those colors and put it into a bronze leaf. And what I like about dragonwings is, and really all begonias, if you think about where you're planting them, if you've ever put a begonia in the ground and it tends to not grow or something like that, the one thing to remember with begonias is you want to start them early and get them in the ground or in the pot. Pots are a little easier because it's just the soil's a little easier to work with. But they really want to get established. They want the roots to be in the ground and established before 95-degree weather hits. If you've ever plant a small begonia and it's 95 and it's June 10th, that plant really never gets anywhere. If you can plant it early enough, get the canopy to cover the roots, you're going to be very, very successful. What I like about dragonwings, and one thing, Stutzman's has lots to choose from. So these are whoppers, so this is another iteration of that knee-high, but you can kind of just tell by looking at them that this one's going to be more straight up, more bush type. This one's going to be more of an arching. So it depends where you want it. If you want it in the back of a flower bed, the upright ones, the whoppers, are going to work better for you. If it's in pots, or depending on where you place it, the dragonwings work really, really well. I have a real affinity for these. Every year we put them in pots in front of the house, and 3 plants, 22-inch pot, and they're 40 inches across come mid-September. They're absolutely stunning, and they're easy. You know, there's a couple of plants in our genre that are super easy to grow, and this is one of them. So begonias are like, you know, I really call coleus kind of the gateway drug. I've said that before, but begonias fall into that category too. Very, very easy to grow. Something new for 2025, and it's not new it's new as a variety. So Ageratum's been around a long time. Again, most of the time it's 8 inches tall. It goes about 12 inches around. This thing gets about 16 inches tall and about 24 inches around, one plant. You can pinch it, you can prune it, you can do anything you want to it to keep it the size you want it. But the real beauty of this, and the name of it's called Monarch Magic, and it actually lives up to its name. One of the perks of my job is I usually get a lot of the new stuff a year ahead of time. So I had this plant as a sample last summer, And in September, when the monarchs were coming through, we enjoyed one day where one plant, now they're bigger by that time, but one plant had,
Pull that up just a little bit higher.
okay, is that better? Thank you. One plant had probably 20 to 25 monarch butterflies just hovering over it back and forth. And there was a plant on this side and a plant over here in a different pot, and they just went back and forth for like 3 hours. And that was, we happened to have grandchildren there that day, so it was great. It kept them entertained, but it was amazing. This plant really, really works. If you've heard me talk in prior years, you know how much I love Angelonia. Angelonia is, again, a great summer plant for Kansas. Works very, very well, very easy to grow. And so basically with all plants, and we've talked about this, but there's different sizes and iterations. New for 2025 is these are Angelonia called Guardian Angel Blue and Guardian Angel Berry Sparkler. So you have a bicolor and then a blue. But what makes these different than all the other Angelonias is they're taller. They're about 6 to 8 inches taller than what you'll find with the other ones. So this one will get up 24 to 26 inches in a pot. So if you think about the opportunity with this, the bigger the pot and you need some height into it, these Angelonia are wonderful, bloom all summer long. They also have very large umbels, so the flowers are really showy. The one thing I will tell you, again, I had these south side of the house, lots of wind last summer, and every now and then you'll have one of these just kind of, work over, so a little trimming helps, but nonetheless, they were fantastic plants, and they do really, really well, easy to care for. We'll go on to Calibrachoas. So I did an exercise because Calibrachoas, I think Stutzman's has 25, 30 varieties. So I did an exercise to see how many commercially available Calibrachoa there were in North America, or the USA I should say, for 2025. And every grower gets to pick from 427 different varieties of Calibrachoa. So think about that. It's crazy when you think about it. But it also shows you the competition. That's like 11 major breeders, maybe 12, I'll say 12 major breeders. They all want your business. Well, they actually want the grower's business. And so it's just, think of it as how, we have competition in cars and all of that, where we have the same thing goes on in flowers. But 427, so that may be 20 that are all the same color, but all different sizes, all from all different breeders. I chose this one. It's Bumblebee Hot Pink, and actually it's my personal favorite. I've grown it about 3 years now, and this thing is looking good all the way through, well, till it freezes, to be honest. And a lot of folks will say you can't grow Calibrachoa in the heat of the summer, and I would tell you that's a myth because I've been able to do it. A couple of things with Calibrachoa is that, again, it's a fine root system, so you want to make sure you have well-drained soil. You want to make sure that you're feeding it heavily. This little Stutzman stuff would work really, really well. And then let it get good and dry. I know when I have struggled is when I'm watering it too much. We tend to think as soon as we see a plant kind of look like, your child says, I'm thirsty, and felt like a plant, they say they're thirsty. The first thing you want to do is go water it. And with these, it's better to say, okay, maybe tomorrow. And let it be tomorrow, and then that plant is very, very happy. If you water too much, what happens, the first thought of watering too much is the foliage will turn yellow, okay, what we call chlorotic. And what's happening in that situation is it's not that lack of fertilizer, it's that you're watering too much. Too much water will kill some of the fine roots. And if you kill the fine roots, it can't uptake the fertilizer, and the whole thing just will crash. So dry on Calibrachoa, and you'll be much more successful. Then we get to Coleus, one of my favorites. This one is new. It's called Marble Mania for 2025. This one was new last year, called Solar Flare. But what I wanted to really just have a quick discussion about is what we see in Coleus is you have the typical shade Coleus, which generally you buy in a 6-pack and they get short, and we want to keep those in the shade. They are derived from seed. These are derived from cuttings, from actually mother plants. And then the shade types tend to go to seed, tend to flower, okay? They tend to flower. When we get into the vegetative breeding, they work extremely hard at not allowing these things to flower. That's not to say they never will, but it takes a super stress out point before this thing will go into flower. Otherwise, you just get big, beautiful plants. And the caveat with, like, this doesn't look like much today, but this plant in a pot at home a couple years ago was, oh goodness, it was 30 inches tall and 36 inches around, one plant. That's how wonderful these can be. That can be a little bit of a challenge if you have other plants underneath it and it's being the bully, right? But as far as color and just beauty, it's hard to beat. This one's a little bit smaller, but also wanted to point out that you tend to have two types within the coleus that's being sold on the market. So these will all get big leaf, big plant. So kind of think that, generally thinking if it's a bigger leaf, it's going to end up a bigger plant. The other side to that coin is this, and you can see right away the difference in the leaf. And these we kind of call strap leaf. There's all kinds of names, but basically smaller leaves. And all of these will tend to be smaller plants. So if it's going in a combination, then, and you don't necessarily want it to be, something like the big leaf ones, it better kind of be the centerpiece, where you get into the strap leaf ones, and you can keep them on the side, you can keep them as accents. These are all just, these three are actually amazing. This one right here, grew it last summer. It grew about this tall, about this wide, but the pink just really shows up within that maroon, and it was absolutely stunning. If you want to see pictures, come find me afterwards. I can find them on the phone. This one's just really, really beautiful. It darkens up a little bit in the shade and holds this color more in the sun, but absolutely beautiful. And the same with this one. I don't know, there's so many to choose from, but again, just if there's a lesson, it's that the strap leaf, the thinner leaf, is a smaller plant, sometimes a little easier to work with. Cannas, who doesn't love cannas? I'll tell a story quickly, but cannas, we always used to just do them from division, right? Dig them out of the ground, split them, and share them. The challenge with that is cannas have, they're very susceptible to virus, and the virus can get in there and hurt a canna, can kill a canna. So a breeder actually out of Japan came along and decided to see what they could do from seed. So they came up with a whole series. They're just on that table back there, Canova, and they are from seed. And that's not to say we still don't sell those from division, but the ones from seed, they're able to do some amazing things. This particular one, I wish it was in bloom because it's yellow with like little red spots on it, and they call it gold leopard, and it's actually new for 2025. Fantastic plant. The series itself has like 9 colors, 9 flavors. Some are bronze leaf and the rest are green leaf. This one's cool. The one thing I would tell you about the cannas, at least the seed types, the Canova is the series, is that if you think of root volume will determine plant size. So if you plant this rascal in the ground, it'll go to 4 feet. If you plant it in a smaller pot, it'll stay at 30 inches. So just realize that soil volume is going to determine plant size. That doesn't really affect, obviously plant size affects how many flowers, but you'll still get a lot of flowers just proportionate to the size of the plant or in the ground, however you would like to utilize it. I know a lady who has grown these on the south side of the house, right up against the house. It's in Duree, Kansas, and she has got them to winter over. That is not something that I'm going to, definitively say will happen. But if it's protected and if it's mulched, these things may winter over. So something else to think about, and what makes cannas, I think, pretty unique in the market. I'm going to go with the fuchsia here. What's interesting with fuchsias, and I've been fortunate to be in this business ever since I was a little child, and fuchsias would never bloom till like middle of May or late May, and by that time the plant's so big, and it was just one of those things that's hard to sell because it's never in bloom unless you know what a fuchsia is. So 2 things have happened in fuchsia. And the first one is it's April 24th today, and we're about to flower. So that's really a beautiful thing. I think fuchsias are hard in Kansas because of the wind, but if you can give them a shaded area protected from the wind, you'll actually have great success with the fuchsia. It's not something that's for everyone, but the flower obviously is very unique, very beautiful. So just something to think about with the fuchsias. I know there's a couple of them over there to be sold. I had to ask Jason again. I know this plant and I forgot the name of it, but it's fondly called Brazilian buttercup. And so it's a very glossy leaf, gets about, I'd say 18 inches or so tall, and then puts out these just beautiful little yellow flowers. And so you have this bright yellow flower about 1.5 inches against a glossy foliage, full sun. And Jason made the comment that he had one last year, 43 blooms on it one time. And if you think about that, that's a lot of color. And just easy to care for. A super easy plant to grow. And this is kind of one of those hidden gems I talk about. It's been around for a while, but it's easy to get lost. And part of the reason for that is, here you go. When you're looking around the greenhouse, you're seeing all the blooms, and you're not necessarily understanding the plant. And that's why I wanted to actually bring this one up. But just a beautiful plant, loads of yellow flowers all summer. You won't be disappointed. So we're going to talk about wave petunias for just one moment. Wave petunias, believe it or not, have been around now for 30 years. This is the 30th anniversary of the original wave, which was Purple Wave. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Purple Wave was this completely out-of-the-box petunia, because we'd always been used to petunias that get this tall and get that big around, and that was it. And the story behind wave petunias is there's a liquor company in Japan. The guy had lots of money. He was a Kirin brewery, and one of his loves was plants. So he had enough money to have a personal breeder, and his personal breeder came up with Purple Wave a little over 30 years ago. And then they tried to figure out how do they take this unique plant and market it to the world. And so they partnered with one breeding company in Europe and one breeding company in the Western Hemisphere, and then one in Pan American Seed, and voila, now there's 5 different series of waves. So that means all different flower sizes, all different habits, but then in 45 different varieties. So again, just in wave petunias, the grower can choose from 45 different varieties to bring to you, and Stutzman's trials them, tests them. But I think this one's beautiful, Pink Passion. Just a wonderful plant, great flower size. You'd love this if you grew it. Petunias, what can we say about petunias? There's 1,000 petunias out there probably. And I just wanted to bring this one up. It's interesting. Again, if you think about just from our end of the industry, everybody's looking for a niche, right? Everybody's looking for something to drive home and get some more sales. This little one is called Mini Vista Yellow, Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow from Proven Winners. And so small yellow flowers, kind of that green undertone, but I can tell you that this plant's fantastic. For them, it's like the national plant of the year this year. They're promoting it in all of their social media. But this thing will trail down 30 inches or more and just completely load up with flowers. And there's so many petunias. Go enjoy all of them. But I just really wanted to pull this one out of the box and show you that what they're doing with this. Within this series, Proven Winners is trying to keep adding colors of small flowered petunias. So it goes back to, if that calibrachoa is difficult to grow, there's options out there, because petunias are so much easier to grow than a calibrachoa. And so this is so much easier to grow a petunia. And just realize they're also creating there's Itsy petunias, there's this, which is a great series as well, and then there's these Mini Vistas. Another just easy plant to grow and love. And this one you're going to have to bear with me, because I talk about it every year. But this little thing is actually a vinca, okay? So the breeders, because it's different, they're trying to call it catharanthus, but if you and I think of it, just think of it as a vinca. So loves hot weather, and that little flower it'll double in size. but the plant will actually go, it'll go 12 inches by 16 inches. I mean, one plant will do that. These things are amazing. I would just sit here and tell you, if you've never grown it, grow it. Now, like a vinca, because it wants hot weather, so don't go put it out there before it's time, but certainly these plants are fantastic. The beauty, I think, of this small flowered soiree vinca is that where vinca, if you've ever grown it, you've grown it all season, you know the first cold night or cool night in September, half the flowers stop. I mean, it's done. It's hit that point where it says, I'm done. These little guys will bloom till freezing, and they'll be full of flower till it freezes. And I have pictures to prove it. You want to come see me afterwards, I'll show it to you. But I think that's what's amazing about this, is they will flower heavy all the way until it freezes. And then within that same genre, within vinca, you're starting to see stuff like this. So historically, all of vinca has been bred from seed, and now we're seeing breeding coming back to cuttings and mother plants. And I mean, just look at the size of the flower, and these plants will get 16 inches tall and about 12, 16 inches wide. That one plant will. So they're really coming up with more unique things all the time. I love that very, very much. Let's see. And I just wanted to put a plug in for these zinnias. There's either Zahara or Profusion zinnias. They're and again, realize that's two competitors, okay? So somebody has Zahara series over here, and the other breeder has Profusions over here. But the basic premise behind these is you take the big flowered zinnias that you've grown and known and loved, and the little bitty flowered zinnias, and they cross them, and they get this. And so you have a medium-sized flower, but you have all the disease resistance. If you've ever grown the tall, big flowered zinnias in the garden, and somewhere along the line, botrytis hits them, and they all fall over, and they're done. This will go all summer, all fall. We don't want it to go too long, because we want you to switch to mums and all the fall fun stuff. But this actually is a fantastic plant. Gets about 12 inches tall, 12 inches around, and just it's a super performing plant. You have nothing to fear if you take any of the Zaharas. They're just on that table over there, Zahara or Profusion. Okay. Always interesting mandavillas. And this is new for 2025, and it's called Fired Up Orange. And it's very aptly named because it wants to grow straight up. So I had a sample of this last summer, and I put it in with a couple of other colors, like a pink and a yellow, and just let it just twirl around and do its thing. And it was actually very, very pretty, blooms all summer. We know they love heat. The more heat, the better. So it's actually, they sell millions of these in Florida, and we should be selling millions of these in Kansas, because they're just fantastic plants. This one will go about that tall. So it's only got about 6 inches more to grow, but it's going to fill out a lot. So again, super plant. All the mandavillas are wonderful. I just wanted to point this one out as being new for 2025. Okay. And then, last but not least, on the annual side anyway, are a couple of, what old timers call wandering Jews, and what the industry wants to call a tradescantia. I think wandering Jew is a lot easier to say than tradescantia. So pistachio white's been around for about 3 years now. What makes this one interesting is normally when you get into this much variegation, it tends not to be very vigorous. If you get into a lot of white or a lot of just yellow variegation, the plants generally don't have as much oomph as if they're green because of photosynthesis and how they grow. This is just the anomaly to that. This thing is a monster. Big leaves, and it's just absolutely wonderful as something coming out of a container. You can grow it in shade. You can grow it in half-day sun. I don't know that I'd put it in full sun, but half-day or shade, and this thing is fantastic. Having said that, and this is little, but I think you can see here that this thing's going to be amazing. This one's called Pink Paradise, and it was debuted last summer at one of our trade shows in the industry, and we talked, some of it came available like late this spring. That's why it's not as big as this one yet. But this thing gets a real iridescence with it, and it's just way too much fun. So anything like a Wandering Jew, which you see right above you there, that's the typical one that we're used to. And then you look at what the difference to this. I mean, they really have something wonderful here. So again, this is one of those fun plants and a hidden treasure that I think you'll enjoy. So real quickly, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to run through just a few perennials. Same thing. So these are butterfly bushes, or buddleias, and we tend to think of buddleias as being, 4 to 5 feet tall, and a lot of them are. And so the breeders see a real opportunity to breed something smaller. So we have 2 of them here. This chrysalis, it'll actually go about 16 inches by 16 inches. Jason did a wonderful demonstration with this pot and putting a perennial in it and then pulling the perennial later, he said, and planting it. So I had this as a sample last year, and I did just exactly that. I put it in a pot with some perennial ice plants, and then at the end of the season, I pulled it out, dropped it in the ground, and I did it late. Jason's right, probably should be done in September. I probably did it at the end of October. And I also, because I was planting it late, I kept it on the south side of the house, but it's coming back. And we had we had some really cold nights in the winter, but it's coming back just fine. And so these are smaller. The one thing I will say with the buddleias, you'll probably do a little bit more deadheading than you would other plants, but hey, that's fun. That's part of gardening, is to deadhead. The other one is this one called Little Rock Stars. So where this one's about 16 inches, this one's only about 12 inches by 12 inches. It's a little bitty guy, and again, just fun. There's a couple colors of these outside and a couple colors of these. But again, breeders are always looking for what can we do different, how can we make it more interesting. These are wonderful, small, fun butterfly bushes. Nepeta or catmint, there's so many out there. And if you're on my end of the business, they go like, there's kitten around, there's Persian, there's cat's meow, there's cat's pajamas. Everything has a cat, a theme to it. This one doesn't. It's called Junior Walker. What makes Junior Walker really unique, if anyone's grown catmint, it just kind of likes to just keep going and going and going and going and going, and the cats destroy it. But Junior Walker kind of fits the bill where it's shrunk. They've shrunk it down a little bit, and they've actually given you some really nice flower power, but a little smaller plant. I think that's what makes this one pretty unique. Red Hot Poker or Nephofia. If there's one perennial that's trending up right now, it's Red Hot Pokers. And they come in all different colors. This one's called Red Shot Popsicle. There's about 4 or 5 flavors outside. Great plants, so they have, and really it's a great name, Popsicle, because that's what the flower looks like. And if you've ever grown these or haven't grown them, I'd say please, give it a try. They are truly perennial around here, and just fun. They just give that, they'll, depending on the variety, but they can get 14 to 16 inches when they're mature, and then they'll get up about, some will only be 20 inches, some of them can get up to 30 inches, and then they put that spike on there. And really a fun plant. We see this one trending up all over the states. Another category is penstemon. If you've been around a long time like I have, there was a penstemon called Husker Red. That was the dark foliage with white flowers. And most penstemons are green, just green leaves. This one, Midnight Masquerade, comes along, and it's that dark foliage with kind of a light pink blossom. So this thing is just really unique, lots of fun. It's been in high demand. And again, if you need a little spot in the perennial garden to fill out, this thing's a fantastic plant. And then we'll talk real quick about Russian sage. Russian sage, as you know, again, the species type or the native type can get up to 4 feet. And about the time it's pretty, it falls apart, right? About the time you think, oh, that's pretty, it just goes like this. So again, breeders get really serious about making it better. And now this one only gets about 16 inches tall. So a nice little dwarf Russian sage. These bloom a little later, like midsummer on. but super plant, easy to grow, very, very hardy in our part of the world, don't need a lot of water, so it's a super great perennial. Salvia, that's what Jason put in here, so the counterpart to that is the rose-colored flowers. This one, I think, bar none, is kind of the tip of the iceberg right now as far as the best rose-flowered salvia on the market, and it's called Rose Marvel. So it stays shorter. It's a little shorter. You can get salvias this tall. It sounds like Dark Matters is taller. This one stays shorter, but fantastic plant. As Jason said, chop it back, and they'll rebloom pretty much all summer long. Great color. I just think it's absolutely beautiful. And then, last but not least, is a Veronica. And this was new last year, called Skyward Pink. What I like about this Veronica versus all the other ones, and I've had a lot of them in my flower beds, get a lot of samples of Veronica, is if you get a cool, cloudy, dark, rainy spring, let's hope we get some more of that this year, but you see powdery mildew hit Veronica really, really, really hard. I can tell you that this Skyward series is pink. There's a pink and a lilac and a blue now, but the pink is available here at Stutzman's. Never have I seen this with powdery mildew. And it's a little taller than some of the other Veronicas. A lot of them will stay here. Skyward will get up a little taller. So fantastic perennial, just easy to care for. You won't be disappointed with this at all. And I think that's all I would have. I think I would just reiterate what Jason said, that fertilizer is your best friend. I've had years in my past life where I wanted to see if I could grow plants without fertilizer and didn't fertilize for a whole summer. And the next year said, okay, I'm going to do the complete opposite, and I'm actually going to take really good care of the plants. And the difference is amazing. And I think if there's just one besides all the beautiful plants, if there's one take-home message, fertilizer is the key to being super successful or just mediocrity. And I'll leave it at that. If anybody have any questions, I'll be glad to take them. Otherwise, I say thank you for being here, and thank Jason and Ben for allowing me to be here.
Thanks, Mike.